The great hall on planet Veltar was bigger than 10 football fields. Crystal walls reached up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Princess Zaraneth stood in the center of it all, her blue scales catching the light from 3 suns that shone through the massive windows. She was not happy. Around her, 12 different alien ships sat on display platforms. Each one was more amazing than the last. Their captains stood beside their vessels, all trying to convince the princess to choose their ship for the most important journey of the year. "Your Highness," said Captain Vexner of the Crystalline People. His body looked like living glass, and rainbow colors danced across his surface when he spoke. "Our ship has meditation rooms that float in the air. You can think clearly while traveling between the stars. No other ship offers such peace." Princess Zaraneth looked at his ship. It was beautiful, made of what looked like carved diamond. Inside, she could see rooms filled with soft light where travelers could sit and think. But she shook her head. "Thank you, but no," she said. Captain Rustic of the Machine People stepped forward. His metal body clicked and whirred as he moved. "Princess, our ship has entertainment systems that can create any world you wish to see. You can visit 1,000 planets without leaving your room. Our technology is the best in the galaxy." His ship was all silver and black, covered in blinking lights and moving parts. Through its windows, the princess could see screens showing amazing worlds, forests of gold, oceans of liquid starlight, cities that floated in purple skies. "It looks wonderful," the princess said, "but I must decline." One by one, each captain made their offer. The tree people showed their living ship that could grow fruit and flowers during the journey. The cloud people promised their vessel could fly through any storm. The rock people claimed their ship was so strong that nothing could harm it. Each time Princess Zaraneth said no. The alien captains began to whisper to each other. Some looked angry. Others seemed confused. The princess was known to be difficult, but this was beyond anything they had seen before. At the back of the Great Hall, Captain Jake Morrison watched everything happen. He was human, and he felt very out of place. His ship, the Star Runner, sat on the smallest platform, next to all the alien vessels. It looked like a tiny metal box. Jake was not tall like the tree people, or shiny like the crystal people. He did not have 4 arms like the princess, or glowing eyes like the cloud people. He was just a regular human with brown hair and blue eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform that had seen better days. His crew stood with him. Lisa Park, his engineer, was a small woman with black hair tied back in a ponytail. She kept looking at all the alien technology with wonder in her eyes. Ben Carter, the ship's doctor, was tall and thin with kind eyes behind wire glasses. Amy Rodriguez, their pilot, was young and eager, always ready for adventure. "Why are we even here?" Amy whispered to Jake. "Look at those ships. Ours is like a bicycle next to race cars." Jake did not answer. He was wondering the same thing. When the invitation came to escort the princess to the Peace Summit, he thought there had been a mistake. Humans were new to space travel. Most aliens still thought of them as barely able to tie their own shoes. The princess raised her 4 arms for silence. The great hall became quiet enough to hear a pin drop. "I have heard all your offers," she said. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Your ships are amazing. Your technology is beyond anything my people could build. But I will not travel with any of you." The alien captains began to talk all at once. Their voices filled the hall with angry sounds. A crystal captain's body flashed red with anger. The machine captain's gears spun faster, making loud grinding noises. "Then how will you get to the Peace Summit?" asked Captain Zorth of the gas people. His body was like a small storm cloud, with lightning flickering inside. "The summit cannot happen without the Veltar Empire. You must choose someone. Princess Zaraneth smiled. It was not a nice smile. She lifted one of her 4 arms and pointed across the hall. Every eye followed her finger. It pointed straight at Jake Morrison. I will travel with the humans, she said. The hall exploded with noise. Alien voices shouted in a dozen different languages. Some captains waved their arms, tentacles, or whatever they had, instead of arms. Others stamped their feet, hooves, or other body parts on the crystal floor. Jake felt his mouth fall open. Lisa grabbed his arm so hard it hurt. Ben's glasses nearly fell off his nose. Amy made a sound like a squeaky toy. The humans? Captain Vexner's voice cracked like breaking. Glass, Your Highness, surely you cannot be serious. They are barely out of their home system. Their ship is a primitive metal box. Their technology is centuries behind ours, added Captain Rustic. They still use chemical rockets for some things. They have not even figured out how to make their food taste good. Princess Zaraneth's scales began to glow brighter. This was a sign that she was getting angry. Every alien in the hall knew this meant danger. Are you questioning my judgment? She asked. Her voice was still musical, but now it sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. The alien captains quickly stepped back. No one wanted to anger a Veltar princess. Her people were one of the strongest empires in the galaxy. They had weapons that could turn planets into dust and shields that could stop stars from exploding. Of course not, Your Highness, Captain Vexner said quickly. But perhaps you could explain why you choose the humans over all of us? The princess walked across the hall. Her feet made soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. She stopped in front of Jake Morrison. Up close, she was even more impressive. She stood 8 feet tall, with scales that shifted color like oil on water. Her 4 eyes were golden and seemed to see everything at once. Captain Morrison, she said, are you prepared to take me to the Peace Summit? Jake found his voice. Yes, Your Highness, if that is what you want. It is exactly what I want, she said. She turned to face the other captains. The summit is in 10 days. If you want the Veltar Empire to participate, you will accept my choice. If not, you can explain to your governments why the most important peace talks in 1,000 years failed. Because you could not respect a princess's decision. The alien captains looked at each other. None of them wanted to be the one to ruin the peace summit. Too many wars had been fought. Too many worlds had been destroyed. This summit was the galaxy's best hope for lasting peace. One by one, they bowed their heads in acceptance. Princess Zaraneth smiled again. This time, it was a real smile. Excellent, she said. Captain Morrison, we leave tomorrow morning. I trust your ship is ready? Jake nodded, even though he was not sure his ship was ready for anything. Yes, Your Highness. We'll be ready. As the alien captains began to leave with their ships, Jake heard them talking among themselves. They were not happy. Some were angry that a primitive human ship had been chosen over their advanced vessels. Others were worried about what this meant for their standing in the galaxy. But Jake had other things to worry about. In less than 24 hours, he would be responsible for the safety of one of the most important people in the galaxy. And he still had no idea why she had chosen him. The next morning came too quickly for Jake Morrison. He stood on the bridge of the Star Runner, looking out at the Veltar spaceport through the main window. His ship felt smaller than ever, sitting between 2 massive alien vessels that were leaving the planet. Lisa had worked all night to make sure everything was perfect. The engines hummed quietly. All systems showed green lights, and she had even managed to fix the coffee maker that had been broken for 3 months. Captain, Amy called from the pilot's seat. Princess Zaraneth is coming aboard. Jake straightened his uniform and walked to the airlock. His heart was beating fast. He had met important people before, but never alien royalty who could probably Have him thrown into space if she changed her mind about traveling with humans. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Princess Zaraneth stepped inside, followed by 2 guards who looked like walking trees made of metal. Behind them came several servants carrying luggage that seemed to float in the air. "Welcome aboard the Star Runner, Your Highness," Jake said. Trying to sound more confident than he felt, the princess looked around the small corridor. Her golden eyes took in every detail. The walls were clean, but showed signs of wear. The lights were bright, but not fancy. Everything looked practical, and used like tools that had done their job for many years. "It is exactly as I expected," she said. "May I see the rest of your ship?" Jake was surprised. Most important passengers wanted to go straight to their rooms and be left alone. "Of course, Your Highness. This way." He led her through the ship, with his crew following behind. First, they went to the main corridor that connected all the rooms. The princess stopped to look at pictures on the walls, photos of Earth, images of other worlds the crew had visited, and a few drawings that Amy had made during long trips between stars. "These are from your home world?" the princess asked, pointing to a picture of Earth taken from space. Double quotes. "Yes, Your Highness. That's Earth, the blue and green world where all humans come from." "It looks peaceful," she said. "Are all the colors real?" "Yes, ma'am. The blue is water, and the green is plants. Brown and white are land and clouds." The princess studied the picture for a long time. "Beautiful," she said finally. They continued the tour. Jake showed her the small dining room where the crew ate their meals. It had 1 table with 6 chairs and a food dispenser that could make basic meals. The walls were painted a cheerful yellow, and someone had put up pictures of different foods from Earth. "This is where you all eat together?" she asked. "Yes, Your Highness. 3 times a day, usually. Sometimes more if we're working long hours." "Your crew eats with you? The captain eats with the workers?" Jake was confused by the question. "Of course, we're all part of the same crew." The princess made a soft humming sound that might have meant she was thinking. Next, they visited the engine room. Lisa was there, checking readings on her computer screens. She looked up when they entered and quickly stood at attention. "Your Highness, this is Lisa Park, our chief engineer," Jake said. Lisa bowed awkwardly. She was not used to meeting royalty. Welcome to the engine room, Your Highness." "Thank you, Engineer Park. May I ask you about your engines?" Lisa's eyes lit up. She loved talking about engines. "They're not the fanciest in the galaxy, but they're reliable. We've modified them to run on almost any kind of fuel, and they can be repaired with basic tools. Would you like to see how they work?" For the next 20 minutes, Lisa explained the engines to Princess Zaraneth. She showed how the fuel was burned to create power, how that power was turned into thrust to move the ship, and how all the parts worked together. The princess asked many questions, and Lisa answered each one with enthusiasm. "Your engines are simple," the princess said finally, "but I can see they are well maintained. You understand them completely." "Yes, ma'am. If something breaks, I can fix it. Can't do that with some of the newer alien tech. Too complicated." The princess hummed again, that same thoughtful sound. They went to the medical bay next. Ben was organizing supplies on metal shelves. The room was small but clean, with 1 bed and equipment that looked basic compared to alien medical technology. "Dr. Carter," Jake said, "this is Princess Zaraneth." Ben smiled and bowed politely. "Your Highness. I hope you won't need my services during the trip, but if you do, I'll take good care of you. What kind of medicine do humans practice?" she asked. "We try to treat the whole person, not just the illness," Ben explained. "We look at what might be causing the problem, not just the symptoms. Sometimes the best medicine is rest, good food, and someone to talk to." You talk to your patients? All the time. Sometimes people are sick because they're worried or scared. Medicine can't fix everything, but talking helps. The princes walked around the small medical bay, looking at the equipment. Your tools are simple too. Simple but effective, Ben said. I can handle most problems with what we have here. The complicated stuff gets handled at proper medical stations. And if there is no medical station nearby? Ben shrugged. Then we make do with what we have. Humans are good at making do. The princess made that humming sound again. Finally, they went to the bridge. Amy was in the pilot's seat, running through pre-flight checks. The bridge was the smallest room on the ship, with just 4 seats and a few computer screens. Through the main window, they could see the spaceport and the planet beyond. This is Amy Rodriguez, our pilot, Jake said. Amy spun around in her chair and grinned. Hi there, Your Highness. Ready to see some fancy flying? The princess seemed amused by Amy's casual attitude. You are confident in your abilities? I've never lost a ship yet, Amy said. And I've flown through some pretty nasty situations. Asteroid fields, solar storms, space pirates. This should be a nice, quiet trip. How do you navigate without the advanced computers I see other ships use? Amy pointed to her screens. We have computers, just not as fancy ones. But a good pilot doesn't rely only on computers. You have to feel the ship, understand how it moves. Know when something's not right. Computers can break. Instincts don't. The princess sat down in the co-pilot's seat. May I ask you all a question? The crew exchanged glances. Jake nodded. Of course, Your Highness. Why did you agree to take me to the summit? Your ship is not the fastest or the most comfortable. You could have said no. Jake thought about it. Because it's the right thing to do. The peace summit is important. If we can help make it happen, we should. Even though you might be in danger? Even though other aliens might not like you for being chosen? That's part of the job, Lisa said. Sometimes you have to do things that are hard or dangerous. Besides, Amy added, it's not about what other people think. It's about doing what's right. And what makes you think taking me is right? Ben spoke up. Because everyone deserves a chance at peace. Humans, Veltar, everyone. If this summit can stop wars and save lives, then we want to be part of it. Princess Zaraneth was quiet for a long time. She looked out the window at her home planet, then back at the crew. I chose your ship, she said finally, because I have been watching your species for many months. I have studied your history, your culture, your actions in space. She stood up and walked to the window. Every other race in that hall yesterday has tried to control my people at some point. The crystalline wanted us to join their meditation religion. The machines wanted to trade our planets for their technology. The tree people wanted us to stop eating meat. The cloud people wanted us to change our government. She turned back to face them. But humans have never tried to change us. When you met my people, you learned our language instead of making us learn yours. You traded fairly instead of trying to cheat us. You respected our customs instead of calling them primitive. Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. We're all just trying to get along in the galaxy. Exactly, the princess said. Other races explore to find things they can use. Resources, slaves, converts to their beliefs. Humans explore to learn and to help. That is why I chose you. She walked toward the door, then stopped. There is one more thing. I have read about human history. You have fought terrible wars, but you learned from them. You made mistakes, but you tried to fix them. You are not perfect, but you keep trying to be better. We're still learning, Jake said. Yes, and that is what makes you different. Other races think they know everything already. They stopped learning long ago. But humans never stop trying to improve. The princess left the bridge to go to her quarters. The crew sat in silence for a few minutes, processing what she had said. Finally, Amy spoke up. So, no pressure, right? Just the future of galactic peace, depending on us not screwing this up. Jake laughed despite his nervousness. Right, just another day at the office. But as he looked out at the stars, he felt something he had not expected. Pride. Not the kind of pride that made you think you were better than others, but the kind that made you want to live up to what others saw in you. Maybe humans were not the strongest or the smartest race in the galaxy, but they were trying to be good neighbors. And sometimes that was enough. The Star Runner left the Veltar system 3 hours after the princess came aboard. Jake watched their home planet grow smaller through the bridge window until it was just another dot of light among the stars. Course set for the neutral zone. Amy reported from the pilot's seat. Travel time will be 8 days at our best speed. Good, Jake said. Nice and steady. No rush. The first day passed quietly. The princess stayed in her quarters, which were the best rooms on the ship. They were still small compared to what she was used to, but Lisa had worked hard to make them comfortable. The walls were painted soft blue. There were extra cushions on the bed, and they had managed to install a small window so she could look out at space. On the second day, Princess Zaraneth surprised everyone by asking to eat dinner with the crew. Are you sure, Your Highness? Jake asked when she made the request. We can bring food to your room if you prefer. No, I would like to eat with everyone, if that is acceptable to you. So that evening, the princess joined them in the small dining room. She had to bend down to fit through the doorway, and her 4 arms made the already cramped space feel even smaller. But she did not complain. The food dispenser produced the best meal it could manage, something that looked like chicken with vegetables and bread. It was not fancy, but it was hot and filling. This is what you eat every day? The princess asked, taking a careful bite. Pretty much, Amy said. The dispenser has about 20 different meals programmed in. Some are better than others. It tastes honest, the princess said after thinking about it. Like food that fills you up and gives you energy to work. That's the idea, Ben said. Simple food for simple people. The princess laughed. It was? A sound like silver bells ringing. You are not simple people, Dr. Carter, but I understand what you mean. After dinner, Lisa taught the princess how to play poker. It took a while to explain the rules, since Veltar had 4 hands instead of 2, but the princess was a quick learner. She won 3 games in a row before Amy accused her of cheating. I am not cheating, the princess said, still laughing. I am just very good at reading faces. That's basically the same thing, Amy grumbled, but she was smiling too. On the 3rd day, the princess asked for another tour of the ship. This time, she wanted to understand how everything worked together. Show me how you maintain this vessel. She told Jake. They started in the engine room again. Lisa explained how they checked the engines every day, looking for problems before they became serious. She showed the princess their spare parts storage and their toolkit. Everything here can be fixed by one person? The princess asked. Most things, yeah. We designed it that way. If we're out in space and something breaks, we can't call for help. We have to fix it ourselves. The princess picked up a wrench from the toolkit. It was old and worn, but it had been well cared for. This tool has been used many times. That wrench has helped fix our engines at least 50 times, Lisa said proudly. My father gave it to me when I became an engineer. He used it for 30 years before that. Your father was an engineer too? Yes, ma'am, and his father before him. We've been fixing things for a long time. The princess held the wrench carefully, as if it were something precious. Tools that pass from parent to child. I understand this. My people have weapons that are passed down the same way. Weapons for fighting, tools for building, Lisa said. I like our way better. Next, they went to see how the ship's life support systems worked. Ben showed the princess how they recycled air and water, how they grew food in a small garden, and how they dealt with waste. Nothing is wasted, the princess observed. Can't afford to waste anything in space, Ben said. Everything has to be used again or turned into something useful. Your ship is like a small world. That's exactly right. We have to be able to live here for months at a time, so we make everything work together. The princess spent an hour learning about the ship's computer systems. Amy showed her how they navigated between stars, how they communicated with other ships, and how they detected dangers in space. Your computers are not as fast as others I have seen, the princess said. No, but they don't need to be, Amy explained. We don't need computers to think for us. We use them to give us information, and then we make decisions. Other species let their computers make decisions? A lot of them do. They have computers so smart that they barely need pilots at all. But then what happens if the computer breaks? The princes nodded slowly. And they cannot fly their ships. Exactly. We keep things simple so we can always stay in control. That evening, during dinner, the princess asked about Earth. What is your home world like? She wanted to know. For the next 2 hours, the crew told her stories about Earth. Jake described the oceans and mountains. Lisa talked about the cities where millions of people lived and worked together. Ben explained how Earth had many different types of people with different skin colors and cultures. Amy told her about the animals that lived on Earth, everything from tiny insects to huge whales. It sounds crowded, the princess said. Very crowded, Jake agreed. Almost 8 billion people living on one planet. How do you keep from fighting? With each other all the time? The crew was quiet for a moment. This was a hard question. We do fight sometimes, Ben said finally. We're not perfect, but most of the time we try to get along. We have laws, Lisa added, rules that everyone has to follow. And we have people whose job it is to make sure the rules are fair. And we learn from our mistakes, Amy said. When something goes wrong, we try to figure out how to do it better next time. Your planet sounds complicated, the princess said. It is, Jake agreed. But that's what makes it interesting. Every day is different. Every person has their own story. On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected something that made Amy frown at her computer screen. Captain, she called, we've got a problem. Jake came over to look at the readings. In front of them, blocking their path to the neutral zone, was a massive space storm. It stretched across thousands of miles, with energy readings that could tear a ship apart. How long until it clears? Jake asked. Amy checked her calculations. At least 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Jake rubbed his forehead. If they had to wait that long, they would miss the peace summit. All the other ships would face the same problem, but some of them might have technology that could get them through the storm. Princess Zaraneth came to the bridge when she heard about the problem. She looked at the storm on the main screen. A swirling mass of purple and gold energy that looked beautiful and deadly at the same time. Can we go around it? She asked. It's too big, Amy said. It would add months to our journey. Can we go through it? Not safely. Our shields aren't strong enough. The princess was quiet for a long time, watching the storm. What will the other ships do? Jake checked his communications. Reports were coming in from the other escorts. The bigger ships were trying to punch through the storm, using their powerful shields and engines. So far, none of them had succeeded. They're trying to fight it, he said, using brute force and failing. Yes, the storm is too strong even for them. Princess Zaraneth smiled. But you are not going to try to fight it, are you? Jake looked at his crew, Lisa was already studying star charts. Amy was running calculations on her computer. Ben was checking to make sure their medical supplies were ready for anything. "No," Jake said. "We're going to find another way." "I thought so," the princess said. "This is why I chose your ship. Other captains would see a wall and try to break through it. You will see a wall and look for a door." Jake felt that warm feeling in his chest again. The princess believed in them. Now they just had to prove she was right to believe. "Amy," he said, "what's on the other side of that asteroid field?" Amy checked her charts. Clear space. If we could get through it, we'd actually be ahead of schedule. And the asteroids? Big rocks floating in space. Some as small as cars, some as big as cities. They're moving, but not too fast. The paths between them change, but a good pilot could navigate through. Jake looked at the asteroid field on the Thiel screen. Most captains would never consider flying through it. The risks were too high, and their ships were too big to maneuver between the rocks. But the Star Runner was small, and Amy was a very good pilot. "Princess," Jake said, "how do you feel about taking a shortcut?" Princess Zaraneth looked at the asteroid field, then at the crew. She saw the confidence in their eyes, the way they trusted each other, the quiet determination that said they would find a way to succeed. "Captain Morrison," she said, "I would not want to travel any other way." The asteroid field looked even more dangerous up close. Rocks the size of mountains tumbled slowly through space, spinning and bumping into each other. Some were dark and jagged, like broken pieces of planets. Others glowed with strange metals. That caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Amy asked, her hands hovering over the flight controls. Jake looked at the main screen, where the space storm continued to rage behind them. The other escort ships were still trying to punch their way through it. One had already turned back with damage to its engines. "We don't have much choice," he said. "The summit can't wait forever." Princess Zaraneth stood behind Jake's chair, watching everything with her 4 golden eyes. She seemed calm, but Jake noticed that her scales had shifted to a deeper blue color. He had learned that this meant she was concentrating hard. "Lisa, how are our shields?" Jake asked. "Running at full power," Lisa reported from the engine room. "I've adjusted them to deflect small debris instead of stopping big hits. We'll be more agile, but we need to avoid the really big rocks. Ben, medical bay ready?" "Ready for anything," Ben called back. "Though I'd prefer not to test that if we can help it." Jake took a deep breath. "Amy, take us in, nice and slow." The Star Runner moved forward into the asteroid field. Almost immediately, alarms started beeping. Small rocks bounced off there, shields like hail hitting a car window. The ship shook with each impact, but the shields held. "So far, so good," Amy said, threading the ship between 2 house-sized asteroids. The princess watched Amy work. The young pilot's eyes never stopped moving, looking at screens, checking readings, glancing out the window to see what was coming next. Her hands moved on the controls like she was playing a musical instrument. "How do you know where to go?" the princess asked. "I don't exactly," Amy replied, banking left to avoid a spinning rock. "I have to read the field as we go. Look for patterns. Predict where the asteroids will be when we get there." "Your computers cannot calculate the paths?" "Too many variables," Amy said. "Every rock affects every other rock. The computer can handle maybe 10 or 20 at a time, but there are thousands out here." A massive asteroid, big as a city, drifted past their starboard side. Princess Zaraneth could see that its surface was covered in metal that looked valuable. "Your people would mine these asteroids," she observed. "Some would," Jake agreed. "But not us. We're not here to take anything. We're just passing through." The princess made that thoughtful humming sound again. As they went deeper into the field, the asteroids became more tightly packed. Amy had to slow down and make sharp turns to avoid collisions. Several times, rocks came so close that everyone could see them through the side windows. Contact on long-range sensors, Ben reported from his monitoring station. One of the big escort ships is trying to follow us into the field. Jake opened communications. This is Captain Morrison of the Star Runner. Ship following us, please. Identify yourself. This is Captain Vixner of the crystal ship Harmony of Light, came the reply. The crystal captain's voice sounded strained. We are attempting to follow your route through the asteroid field. Jake winced. The crystal ship was 10 times the size of the Star Runner and not built for tight maneuvering. Captain Vexner, I don't recommend that. Your ship is too big for this field. We cannot allow the human ship to be the only one to reach the summit on time, Vexner replied. It would be ... embarrassing. Through the rear cameras, Jake could see the crystal ship, trying to squeeze between asteroids. It was like watching an elephant try to thread a needle. Your ship is beautiful, Jake said diplomatically, but it's not designed for this kind of navigation. Why don't you wait for the storm to clear? Absolutely not. If primitive humans can navigate this field, then certainly we can do the same. Jake looked at Princess Zaranath. She shook her head sadly. Pride, she said quietly. It will be their downfall. 10 minutes later, they heard Captain Vixner's voice again, much less confident than before. Star Runner, we are experiencing difficulties. Several of our outer hull panels have been damaged by asteroid impacts. Can you turn around? Jake asked. Negative. We are trapped between several large asteroids. We cannot maneuver. Jake sighed. Amy looked back at him with raised eyebrows. Lisa's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, if we go back to help them, we'll lose hours, maybe days. Jake knew she was right, but he also knew what he had to do. Amy, bring us about. We're going back. Really? Amy asked. Really? We can't leave them stuck out there. Princess Zaraneth watched Jake with interest. This will delay our arrival at the summit. Maybe, but we can't abandon them. Even though Captain Vexner insulted your ship and your people? Jake shrugged. That doesn't matter. He's in trouble, and we can help. The princess's scales shifted to a warmer, golden color. This is very human of you. It took 3 hours to reach the crystal ship. When they found it, the situation was worse than Jake had expected. The beautiful crystal vessel was wedged between 3 large asteroids, with cracks running along its hull, where impacts had damaged the living crystal structure. Their ship is hurt, Princess Zaraneth said, looking at the damage with her experienced eyes. Can we pull them out? Jake asked Lisa. Not directly. We're too small. But maybe we can use the asteroids against themselves. Lisa's plan was clever, but dangerous. The Star Runner would use its small size and agility to push against one of the smaller asteroids, changing its rotation just enough to create a gap that the crystal ship could escape through. This requires very precise flying, Amy said, studying the calculations. If I push too hard, the asteroid might spin into the crystal ship. If I don't push hard enough, nothing happens. Can you do it? Amy grinned. Watch me. The next hour was the most tense flying any of them had ever experienced. Amy positioned the Star Runner against the asteroid with surgical precision. The ship's hull groaned as it pressed against tons of spinning rock, but Lisa had reinforced the shields to handle the pressure. Push starting in 3, 2, 1. Amy announced. The Star Runner's engines fired at full power. Slowly, incredibly slowly, the asteroid began to change its spin. Princess Zaraneth watched through the window as the massive rock shifted just a few degrees. It's working, Ben reported, monitoring the crystal ship. "The gap is opening." But then alarms started blaring on the Star Runner. The strain of pushing against the asteroid was overloading their engines. "Lisa, report," Jake called. "Engine temperature is getting too high." Lisa's voice came back, tight with worry. "If we keep this up much longer, we'll burn out our main drive." Jake had to make a choice. Stop now and leave the crystal ship trapped, or risk their own engines. To save their rivals, keep pushing, he decided. "Captain, if our engines fail, we'll be stuck here too," Amy warned. "Then we better make this work the first time." Princess Zaraneth placed one of her 4 hands on Jake's shoulder. "You would risk your ship for people who called you primitive? Wouldn't you do the same for your people?" Jake asked. The princess smiled. "Yes, I would. And that is another reason why I chose you." The gap finally opened wide enough. Captain Vexner guided his damaged ship through the opening, his crystal hull scraping against the asteroids, but making it to safety. "Thank you, Captain Morrison." Vexner's voice came over the radio. We owe you a debt." "No debt," Jake replied. "Just get your ship to safety." The crystal ship limped away toward the edge of the asteroid field, moving slowly but steadily. The Star Runner's engines were running hot, but they were still working. "Well," Amy said, wiping sweat from her forehead, "that was exciting." "How much time did we lose?" Jake checked their position. "About 4 hours, but we can make it up if we take the direct route through the center of the field." The center of the asteroid field was the most dangerous part, where the biggest rocks gathered, and the spaces between them were smallest. But it was also the fastest route. "Are we still doing this?" Ben asked from the medical bay. Jake looked around the bridge. Amy was already plotting a course through the center. Lisa was cooling down their engines and preparing for more hard flying. Ben was securing everything in the medical bay for rough travel. Princess Zaraneth stood at the main window, looking out at the swirling rocks and distant stars. "Captain Morrison," she said without turning around, "I have traveled on many ships with many different crews. I have never seen anything like what just happened." "What do you mean?" "Other crews would have calculated the risks and decided that saving the crystal ship wasn't worth it. They would have left Captain Vexner trapped and continued to the summit." "That doesn't seem right to us." "No, it doesn't. And that is what makes humans special." She turned to face him. "You don't just think about yourselves. You think about everyone." The journey through the center of the asteroid field took 6 more hours. Amy flew like she had been born among the stars, sliding the Star Runner between rocks with meters to spare. Lisa kept the engines running smoothly, despite the constant course changes. Ben monitored everyone's health and made sure no one passed out from the stress. Jake coordinated everything, calling out hazards and making split-second decisions about which path to take. But mostly, he watched his crew work together like parts of a single machine. They didn't need long. The neutral zone was a place where no single species controlled the space. It floated between star systems like an island in a vast ocean. The Peace Summit Station was built here specifically for meetings between different galactic governments. As the Star Runner approached the station, Jake was amazed by its size. The structure was bigger than any city he had ever seen, with docking bays for ships from hundreds of different worlds. Lights twinkled across its surface like stars, and communication signals buzzed through space in dozens of alien languages. "Docking Bay 47, came a voice over the radio. "Welcome to Peace Station, Star Runner." Amy guided their small ship into the assigned bay. Around them, Jake could see vessels from across the galaxy. Some looked like living creatures, others like geometric sculptures, and a few like nothing he could identify. "Quite a gathering," Ben observed, looking out at all the different ships. The biggest peace conference in 1,000 years, Princess Zaraneth said. Representatives from over 300 worlds are here. Jake felt nervous again. The star. Runner looked very small next to all these impressive alien vessels. But then he remembered the asteroid field and how his crew had solved an impossible problem. Maybe being small wasn't always a disadvantage. The docking process took an hour. Princess Zaraneth gathered her belongings and prepared to leave the ship. Her guards and servants had been waiting patiently during the entire journey, but now they moved with purpose. "Thank you, Captain Morrison," the princess said formally. "You and your crew have exceeded all expectations. It was our honor." "Your Highness," Jake replied. "I hope to see you again before the summit concludes." She paused at the airlock door. "There may be more work for you to do here." After she left, the crew had time to explore the station. It was like walking through a museum of galactic civilization. Beings from worlds Jake had only heard about in stories walked through corridors that were built to accommodate every possible body type. They saw the tree people, tall and graceful, with bark-like skin and leaves instead of hair. The cloud people drifted past like walking storms, their bodies shifting between solid and gas. The rock people moved slowly but steadily, their stone bodies carved with intricate patterns. "It's like the whole galaxy decided to have a party," Amy said, watching a group of crystal beings talk to some mechanical creatures near a food court. "A very serious party," Ben corrected. "Look at their faces. Everyone's worried." Jake could see what Ben meant. Despite the amazing diversity of species, there was tension in the air. Groups stayed separate from each other, whispering in their own languages and casting suspicious glances at their neighbors. "This doesn't look like a peace conference," Lisa said quietly. "It looks like everyone's getting ready for a fight." The next morning, Princess Zaraneth contacted Jake with an unusual request. "Captain Morrison, would you and your crew join me for a meeting? There are some people I would like you to meet." They met in one of the station's smaller conference rooms. Around a circular table sat some of the most important people in the galaxy. Jake recognized a few faces from news broadcasts, but most were completely unknown to him. "Everyone," Princess Zaraneth said, "I would like you to meet Captain Jake Morrison and his crew from the human ship Star Runner." An elderly woman with silver hair stood up. She wore a simple blue uniform with a small Earth flag on the sleeve. "Captain Morrison, I'm Ambassador Helen Brooks, head of the human delegation. I've heard remarkable things about your journey here." Jake shook her hand. "Thank you, ma'am. We just did our job." "Hardly just your job," said a tall being covered in golden scales. "I am Diplomat Chantal of the Reptilian Consortium. Princess Zaraneth has told us how you risked your own mission to rescue the crystal ship." Around the table, other diplomats nodded approval. Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "Your Highness," he said to the princess, "why are we here?" "Because the summit is failing," she replied bluntly. The humans looked around the table in surprise. Ambassador Brooks nodded grimly. "It's true," she said. 3 days of negotiations, and we're further apart than when we started. Everyone wants something different, and no one wants to compromise." "What are they fighting about?" Lisa asked. A small, furry creature with huge eyes spoke up. "Territory, mostly. The mechanical people want to expand into crystal space. The gas people claim the cloud people are polluting shared star systems. The tree people refuse to trade with anyone who eats meat. And the rock people won't make agreements that last less than 1,000 years, added another diplomat, while the cloud people change their minds every few months. Jake was beginning to understand. So everyone has completely different ways of thinking. "Exactly," Princess Zaraneth said. "And they all assume that their way is the only correct way." Ambassador Brooks leaned forward. "Princess Zaraneth has suggested something unusual. She wants the human delegation to serve as mediators for the territorial disputes. Us? Jake asked, surprised. But we're new to all this. We don't know the history or the politics. That's exactly why you might succeed where others have failed, the princess explained. You don't have 1,000 years of prejudice and old grudges influencing your decisions. The furry diplomat nodded eagerly. Plus, you're the only species here that no one considers a threat. You're not trying to take anyone's territory or convert them to your beliefs. And, added the golden-scaled Shental, you've already proven that you can find creative solutions to impossible problems. Jake looked at his crew. Amy was excited, practically bouncing in her chair. Lisa looked thoughtful, already working through the problems in her mind. Ben seemed worried but determined. What exactly would we need to do? Jake asked. Help us see these disputes from a fresh perspective, Ambassador Brooks said. Look for solutions that the rest of us are too. Set in our ways to consider, Princess Zaraneth stood up. The formal negotiations resume in 2 hours. If you're willing to try, I can arrange for you to observe and offer suggestions. Jake made his decision. We'll do it. The main conference hall was enormous. Representatives from 300 worlds sat in a complex arrangement that took into account everything from atmospheric requirements to traditional seating customs. Some delegates sat in pools of water, others hung from the ceiling, and a few existed as energy patterns projected onto special screens. The current argument was about a star system claimed by both the mechanical people and the crystal people. Both sides had legal documents proving their ownership. Both sides had historical evidence. Both sides were absolutely certain they were right. Jake listened to the arguments for an hour before he realized something important. Ambassador Brooks, he whispered, are they arguing about the same thing? She looked confused. What do you mean? The mechanical people keep talking about mining rights and resource extraction. The crystal people keep talking about meditation sites and spiritual significance. Are they sure they want the same planets? Ambassador Brooks sat up straighter. You know, I don't think anyone's actually asked that question. During a break-in the formal proceedings, Jake approached both delegations separately. The conversations were eye-opening. The mechanical captain, Rustic, was confused when Jake asked about meditation sites. Why would we want empty planets where people just sit and think? We need worlds with metals and energy sources. The crystal representative Harmony was equally puzzled about mining. Why would we prevent others from taking rocks and metals? From planets? We only need places of natural beauty for our spiritual practices. Jake brought both groups together with Ambassador Brooks translating. Captain Rustic, Jake said, what if the crystal people could use the planets with natural beauty, and you could mine the rocky, resource-rich worlds in the same system? But the legal documents say we own the entire system, Rustic protested. What if ownership was less important than usage? Jake suggested. What if you both had rights to the system, but used it for different purposes? Harmony's crystalline body sparkled with interest. We could share the system? They take what they need, and we use what we need? Why not? Jake said. There's enough space for everyone. The idea was so simple that both sides initially rejected it. But as they talked more, they realized it could work. The mechanical people got their mining rights. The crystal people got their meditation planets. And both sides saved face because neither had to give up their legal claims. Word of the breakthrough spread quickly through the conference. Other delegations began approaching the human mediators with their own disputes. The gas people and cloud people problem was solved when Amy suggested they think of shared space systems like weather patterns on Earth. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's sunny, she explained. You don't fight the weather, you learn to work with it. The trade dispute between the tree people and meat eaters was resolved when Ben proposed a simple labeling system. Just put clear labels on everything, he said. That way, everyone knows what they're buying, and no one's beliefs are violated. The Rock people's insistence on thousand-year agreements was handled by Lisa's engineering approach. Make the agreements modular, she suggested. Long-term framework with short-term details that can be updated as needed. By the end of the week, 12 major disputes had been resolved. The atmosphere in the conference hall